You're listening to the C1D Paintball Podcast.
Hey there, Andrew. You're listening to the C1D Paintball Podcast. It's been a while, and I have with me my ever loyal, not like dogs. Well, yeah, maybe like dogs. I've got I've got Mike Nichols with us. He's waving.
Hi there.
He's talking now. I had to say he's waving because I like to remind everybody that this is a podcast that's released first in audio. And I have with me the man, we call him all kinds of things, the man, the myth, the legend. We used to call him Medic, but I think with today's discussion, we simply call him the Shield. We have Connor. Connor, welcome.
Yep.
Would you prefer Senor Shield, Mr. Shield, or that crazy guy with the shield? Why doesn't he have a marker on the field?
I actually prefer fourth option, Mr. Bouclier.
Mr. Bouclier. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think my sound level is a little low. I'm going to do a manual adjustment here. But don't worry, guys. You'll hear my voice enough that you don't have to worry. But if the sound goes a little whatever, we're doing this live. You're listening to it. Well, there's one person listening to it live. But yeah, it's just one of these things. So I want to talk about a podcast called 6EF, 6th Expeditionary Force, because yes, there was a big game and we sent people over in force, and hence the force part of 6th Expeditionary Force. Hello to Chris, who is in the lobby listening. Very important, I just mentioned something from the bat here. Did I even mention it was at Mirabel Paintball? It's their Rush event. So Jeff is here too. Thank you very much, Jeff. So Mirabel Paintball is unquestionably a world-class facility. It's arguably the best facility in North America. You got Paintball Explosion is really nice, and some of these places I haven't been to. I know Jeff has actually been. But Mirabel Paintball is something that it's only about, what, Connor, 45 minutes from our house? So it's in Quebec. It's a beautiful place. Hugo is the face of it. He is the brains behind it. He is an absolute asset to the paintball community. He's genuine, a really great guy. Their staff is excellent. They got great referees. And such was the case this past Sunday at the Rush event. Very well organized. They had raffles, and Mike won a marker for his second time out in 2 times in a row at Mirabel, but we'll talk about that after. This is my disclaimer part. We had a good time at the event, but when you're listening to paintball people talk and they talk about the other team cheating or they're wiping, and I don't do this often, but Connor is typing furiously away here at the keyboard.
Sorry, I didn't know it was loud.
Yeah, it's pretty loud. He's in school mode right now.
Okay. Hands are up.
I don't brag. I'm proud of the fact we have so many videos with C1D on it. So over 500 videos. One thing you will not hear me complain too much about is people cheating. And a lot of times when I hear people that I don't know on podcasts, on paintball, they talk, oh, those cheaters and that, I'll kind of roll my eyes saying, oh, yeah, they're cheating. The fact is when you have like 100 players on each side, I think we were about 100, 120 each at peak on Sunday, you're going to have people that wipe. You're going to have people that overshoot. You're going to have cheaters. You're going to have 2 or 3 on each team. It's just the way it is. It's not all teams brought together. Sure, we brought our team. There are a few teams, but you get all kinds of people. People that really don't care when they walk away from the field. If they've nailed 20 people and wiped half the paint off them, they don't care. There were a lot of them on the other team. The refs, when you asked for a paint check, when you pointed it out, when they saw it, they dealt with it. And that's why I'm doing this long intro, because the refs did a great job. But I'm giving an example here. For those listening just on the podcast, picture me. I'm sitting at my desk, and I've got a couple of beautiful Intensity C1D jerseys behind me on the wall. But they're jerseys. They look like ghost bodies. So I'm facing the camera here, and I got my marker up like I'm shooting towards the front line. Imagine those jerseys behind me are the referees. If I get hit, boom, boom, a couple in the chest, They don't know if I got hit. They don't. Referees can't catch everything. There were a lot of referees everywhere. When you told them something, like I said, they did something about it. When they saw something, they did something about it. I asked for a paint check. And the ref after came to me. He didn't have to, saying that guy was hit. He's gone for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, there was about a minute left because they cornered us. Now, the story of the day was it was another excellent event held by Mirabel Paintball, but there was an inordinate amount of guys wiping, overhitting on the other side. I'm going to be making 4 videos because there are 4 games in it. And it's not for me to go out and point out that they cheated every time, but it dominated the games. And I don't feel bad because, don't worry guys, I won't talk forever. It's very important to say this. I don't want to have a controversial episode where we talk about cheating. We all know what happens in paintball. We all know what happens in paintball. What's the first thing that most of us say when people say, why don't you try airsoft? Too easy to cheat. I'm not dumping on airsoft. I'm just saying. Paintball, where it's so bloody obvious, people still try. It dominated the games, but what I want people to walk away from, as I wrap this little soliloquy up, is that we still had a good time. We dealt with it. Had it been Connor and I just driving home alone, had we not gone with the family that's C1D, as well as the guys from CMDQ that we know, and just familiar faces we know. If it were just Connor and I blindly going to this place, driving home, we would have done the wrong thing. We would have said, you know what? Mirabel Paintball, don't go there. Everybody cheats. We might forget that the refs did well because we had this bad taste, but we know that's not the truth. And because collectively the C1D family was there going through this, we kind of laughed at it and we dealt with it. And if people, when the videos are done, when something was wrong, we told the ref, we're not being crybabies. We're out there to have fun. And they did not make it fun. And I brought this up to a gentleman that plays paintball that I work with today. And somebody overheard our conversation that doesn't play paintball. And he goes, well, it's an aggressive sport. Tennis is an aggressive sport. Pickleball is an aggressive sport. I mean, it's not necessarily an aggressive sport. And I'm not saying be aggressive, go to the front line. You're like any sport can be aggressive. What happened that day, I think it's gonna go down in lore for us. We're gonna talk about that time we went to Mirabel. It was a great event, but those guys tried to ruin it, but they didn't ruin our fun. So we're gonna talk about the event, but we're gonna mention these individuals that we did point out to the refs. And the refs did take care of it when they could, because sometimes you point something out and the guy runs away. I don't think Hugo listens to this. We're just a simple country podcast, I tell you. But his guys did a great job. So we're going to get away from that. You're not going to hear my voice as much as I just went on there. And we're going to talk about the actual event, which was great. And it was called a big game. And effectively was because, hey, anytime you get, what do you guys think? Over 75 people per side is a big game, over 50? What do you guys say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 50.
I say anything around 100, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
No, because you'll never have 50 people turn out on each side in a normal day, so yeah.
Exactly. So the scenario was defend attack. So there was 3 or 4 fields connected in the first half. You play 2 games. Pretty straightforward. One team spawns from one side, and then the next game they spawn from the other. There's 5 flags on the field. Because what do they call it? They called it total domination. You got to capture all 5 flags, or time runs out. Or, more likely one team has 3 or 4, and they get a moral victory out of it. And in the second half, we did the same thing, but we moved fields. And so I'm going to set this up, and I'm going to actually let Mike describe the first game a bit. Now, the first game, as you would expect in a big game, is there's going to, especially this where there's several games within it, and I know some fields do this in big games, you adjust the teams after. So there was an incident at the end of this game, but we felt, well, they're going to adjust the teams and it won't happen again. But it was a pretty fun game, remembering that most of the field was new to us. So Mike, as the voice of reason, because unfortunately I've influenced Connor over the years with my pessimism and strong attitude and lack of holding back 4-letter words. How would you describe the first game, which I actually had fun in, despite what happened at the end?
Well, I thought it was great. I mean, first game I had the most energy, so the first initial push clash in the middle, being on the front lines was really cool. We ended up, I think we made it up, close to the road. But immediately, I was having marker issues the first 2 games, so I don't really know what happened mid-game on. But in the beginning, we were holding on pretty strong. I believe we got the first 2 flags immediately. I don't know if we made it to the third one. I don't know if you guys want to chime in on that one immediately. But I stayed back at the second flag, kind of tried to keep, cover from back there and deal with my markers. But when I did go out and I came back in about 5 minutes later, we were pushed back so far into our spawn. Immediately, I was like, "Oh my god!" My morale went. But I tried to stay as good as I could and keep going. But we kind of got crushed that first game. But I had fun with it.
Well, Connor had a very, as soon as you started talking, Mike, I have laid out the video for that. Connor ran up, unlike D-Day, where you told Nevin, or I think you told Nevin, you said, don't run at full speed. You don't have to be the first one there. But Connor, I think you ended up alone in the middle of the woods. You had a Red Riding Hood moment, I believe is the term. So what happened to you the first 30 seconds of the game before you realized that maybe I should have brought a marker? Connor just ran the shield.
I only had the shield for the day. And before the game started, since, we've only played there one stat, and never on that specific spot. It was end of the field. So that was out of the big game from we played it way back when. So I asked Nick, who's been there a couple times, like, hey, how far is their spawn from ours? Like, how far do I have to run to get to halfway? And he's like, honestly, it's a bit of a run. I'm like, 2 minutes? He's like, yeah. So I sprint there, right? I want to get to the middle. And I run past the first flag, and the route I take is I run right past the second flag, but I didn't see it. So I ran immediately within the first 30, 45 seconds. I'm at the middle flag. I can see it. And after I see their whole team there, and I think I'm with Nevin, I'm like, these guys, they got a false start. How are they already, they've crossed 60% of the field to our second flag, right? The whatever. And it was only after I died I realized I was on their side. I made it halfway across the field all alone. And it was when I turned back and looked at their team and where our team was and saw how many experienced speedball players that knew exactly where to rush, that it's this game isn't going to be it's not going to go well for us. And it turns out it didn't, but it was still fun.
Yeah, there's Chris just mentioned he's got an aluminum shield he made. I think, Connor, you still wouldn't be able to hear had you been holding an aluminum shield in front of you on Sunday. That's actually what, as I'm editing the video, the camera, the sound goes really bad because the only thing camera's picking up is poop, 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 poop. But the way the field is, and you mentioned experienced players, our area, it was a compound. 2 containers, kind of like a door kind of thing. And on each side of those other containers, you could come in, and we had a little wooden palisade, I think is the official term. Not a castle, a palisade. That's the British blood flowing in this Canadian that I know it's a palisade. But on our left side, I guess the north side of the field, let's call it, there was a tape line with netting, and it jutted over. So you could actually be behind the netting and see what's going on towards the middle of the field. And these experienced players went to that corner and came in from there. Totally legit move. As a matter of fact, we did the same in the second game. but it wasn't. We're going to deal with some a little ugly stuff that happened towards the end of the game, but their speedballers, as Connor mentioned, they came in. I think it was 2 teams of them they had, and that's just
Yeah.
And it was corrected after. The referees corrected it after, but they came in on that side and they pushed us back like you should. I mean, I think I can speak to all of us to say we're standing in the middle of the field saying, I don't know where to go. And Connor, you're doing that, and that's when you realized that maybe this isn't the best field for me to just have a shield on. You said something like that on the microphone.
I realized that before the game started.
Oh shit!
I said that to Nick. It's like, it's probably not good, and I asked him too. It's like, is it gonna be? And obviously, he's not gonna make me go back to the car and switch out, right? But it's like, I told him how it's like, you know what, with the 5 flags, maybe I can actually make a difference with the shield running up and doing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you'll be good. And man, it was like really, really open, where it was like like, I don't know, like a 160 field that I'm getting shot from with it. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Connor, you played D-Day as a medic without a shield. Granted, you know the D-Day field fairly well. When you're sitting there, it's like I'm Dr. Filling you here. When you were there in the middle of the field, realizing like the challenge you had, I mean, you must have got a slight rush out of it. Like, okay, let's see what we can do, right?
well, you're talking about D-Day or?
No. The event, the rush event, when you just had a shield. As a medic, you're constantly helping. With a shield, I think you've got to. Yeah, actually, how do you address that? How do you go into it with the shield? Did you figure you'd just meet up with people, talk them into it, and rush up? How did you go to that challenge, especially realizing that you needed them as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, right? Is like, when I'm playing medic, it's a lot easier to make a difference by myself. Compared to shield, is that I need a team. So if I have absolutely nobody that wants to run up, or if it's a time that we're supposed to hold a spot, I'm effectively useless. I can't do anything, like, at all, without a marker. And so it's tough having to communicate with your team. You have to figure out, in that big group of people, who would like to run up with you. And eventually throughout the day, I figured out who that was. But the first game, you'll see in the footage, I really struggled to speak to people. There was definitely a big language barrier, where I specifically said multiple times, like, you do not have to speak to me in French. I understand perfectly fine, but I can't give call-outs in French.
Actually,
because it's too difficult for me. I don't know certain words. Like, I don't know how to say, like, container in French. But if I say container in English, they should know.
Yeah, French.
What it is. I don't know.
Yeah, if you've lived in the province more than 10 years, you know a little bit of Franglish at the very least. Actually, and in the second game, you actually really did well. You found a group of speedballers that were freaking good. But let's finish the first game first. Okay, so we did have a little incident at the end of the first game. And I mentioned before, like, you adjust. When you have that, even when you play a big game where it's 2 halves only, they adjust mid-game or they adjust at the half. So we had an incident where a player was getting bunkered. CMDQ guy was being bunkered. And Connor, he just had a pistol, eh?
Yeah. Well, he was kind of like in this little trench area. A little tunnel, I guess, a tunnel trench. And the container, one of the doors was open, one of the doors was closed. He was behind cover on the closed door, shooting into the open container. And I saw that he was out of ammo. And I also saw that the guys were creeping up alongside the outside of the container. And I knew that I can't do anything to help him, right? I can't shoot those guys. So I ran out into the middle to kind of, hey guys, shoot me. And they did shoot me, but I also saw that the little CMTQ, well, not little, I mean, like, in a metaphorical context, because he only had his pistol, right? And there's all these speedballers coming in on him. And one guy, point blank, like a foot away, at least 5, 6, 7 shots into him, point blank. And then after he's out, I see him. He's like, he's just lying there because it's like, what is he supposed to do? And then I get. I didn't expect to go in and save him. I even moved up into the fire, like I really don't want this guy to get like screwed up. And I just started to get shot from literally like it felt like everywhere but my back.
You'll hear in the video I was mentioning before, the pung pung pung, you'll see it. Now I saw this happening and I heard Connor very calmly going, hit, and he's just sitting there and he's got his thing on the ground, his shield, and he's behind it. And they're lighting him up, and I go and it's like, well, I'm going to go behind this building and I'm going to go shoot over Connor and get him. The ref saw Connor. I mean, how badly are they bunkering you when you have a shield and the ref still throws his body over you? That's how bad it was, especially Jeff. I haven't told him the story. He's listening to it here. Like, Connor's got a shield, but it's so bad. The guy jumps on the shield. I mean, the idea, of course, is that you won't shoot the ref. And I went over when this wasn't working, and I went over and I'm shooting at two guys that were there. I know I hit both. The one guy was with one shot, but the other guy I hit 4 or 5 times because he kept shooting. The ref takes Connor away. Connor was very calm the whole time, by the way, going, that's okay, I'm a hit. And I hit the guy several times. And finally, I took a hit, and right beside me is the netting, and everybody can see. One thing about having a camera on your helmet, I think, Connor, you realize that too. Oh, Mike has the camera on his helmet too. But I mean, I put all our footage out that I record, right, for my stuff and Connor's stuff. One thing you learn is, we all say it sometimes, but I'm going to say, that son of a bitch, that effing whatever, or you just open up on him and you give it back to him. I'm not like that to give it back, but everybody has a limit. But I tell you one thing, that netting there, if everybody wasn't watching, but anyway, I walked back. By the way, I asked the ref, do a paint check. The ref did a paint check. I went out. The ref followed me and said he was hit. I told him, go back. He's out. He's done for this one. Mind you, they were routing us in that. So I went in saying, okay, you know what? Maybe that's the guys. Because there were guys that there was a lot of rentals there, including little kids. I think you guys noticed that. And and they figured it's like, well, maybe, because he had a good marker. He had a nice marker. It was just like, I won't say what he was dressed like, but he had a Halloween costume on that was distinct. I don't want to point anybody out. Again, the vast majority of the team was good, but instead of 2 or 3 cheaters, there was a good 15, 20. But anyway, the ref told me, well, maybe I saw it. Maybe a friend bought him and all this. And the ref said, I took care of it. It's like, okay, cool. And we went into the second game saying they adjusted too. We got a team of speedballers, including Michelangelo, one of our C1D guys. And I found the second game didn't really have as much wiping and stuff. I think you saw it sometimes, but I think it might have been the most, was it non-controversial game we had all day?
Probably. I mean, there was some stuff towards the end.
Oh, that's true.
The flag, yeah.
It was a hell of an
intense fight there.
Yeah. We. Now the thing about it too is because the 2 games in the afternoon had a road dividing the 2 fields, so you're just asking for a stalemate there. You knew that you'd get guys wiping, but actually, Connor, why don't you start about this the second game? Oh, by the way, here's something. We didn't get to see their spawn in the first game because we got wiped pretty good. But their spawn, which was also actually that was more of a castle, not a palisade. There were 3 bridges to get to it. Did you guys notice that? Like, had we actually gone and tried to go in for the kill, how would we ever have taken the castle when they could have just lined us up like sheep in those three bridges? But Connor, why don't you? Tough. Yeah. Connor, why don't you explain what happened? And the reason why, I know Mike did it the first time, but in particular, that corner I mentioned where the speedballers came in the first game with the netting, which was totally legit. Connor, you found a couple of experienced buddies and found yourself at that corner. So I hope I'm giving too much away. But it's the footage I watched this morning, and it's really a blast. I wish I was 20 years younger and could have gone into there.
Yeah, so Also, just to correct you for one thing, I think this is very important to say, is that the three guys that joined us specifically that were on the other team last game, I forget one of the players' names, but Pete and Donuts, they're wearing pink speedball jerseys, part of a team. Really nice guys.
Donut's number 2. If you watch him in the video, I think. I'm pretty sure he's number 2.
No, Pete is number 2. Pete is the guy I spoke to. Then the other two were mainly French, but Pete spoke like perfect English. Mm-hmm. So me and him were buddies. But
great players.
You know, really, really great guys. And they told me right away, like, is this all you have? It's like, I don't know, this is our team. He's like, they have at least 3 times as much than you guys. So we played the first game 3-1. So I guess that's part of why we got destroyed as much as we did, and we didn't have any speedball players. And we definitely noticed the second game was more fair. It pushed back into our first flag within the first couple minutes. It was a lot more of a fair game, which, you know, was expected when you balance the teams depending on it. They did a good job, you know, taking which players and putting, moving people around. I think we are still down people, but it was still pretty close. Yeah, so that game, you know, just switching sides. So we started at the castle side.
Not the palisade, the castle. Not the palisade, the castle.
Yeah. And me and them and some other people, we ran along the right. So we took the road, past the long bridge, and went up on the high ground immediately to the right, which is where I saw their speedballers all immediately in the first game when I kind of went into the no man's land. So it was good. It's like, okay, now we're in there. Like, that was how they like took us out. That's like the power spot. You're shooting down on the entire field, basically. Got there early, which is really good. And kind of little by little, we were moving up along to basically a corner where the netting is. It's a really safe kind of spot where it's like obvious. It's like it's as if it's glass, right? You can see them, they can see you. So we're kind of behind this, and yeah, no, it was really intense because eventually we're like, okay, well, we're just staying here. They're just staying on the next corner. Let's just move up. So we kind of get into the little, I guess you can imagine it like it's like a W almost, where it's like this is one corner and this is the other corner. And so we went into the middle part where there's no corner, no cover. It's like we immediately go in, I hunker down at the shield, and they like dive in, like all these rocks and the branches and the tree roots, and they're just like going to town with their speedball markers. It was really cool.
They were so close to the ground. When you see the video, it's crazy. And they dove through. You can tell they knew the field because it's the fall right now in Quebec. There are leaves everywhere, and they could have been diving on frickin' rocks. But it is, when you see the video, it's sick. You're even pulling pods out of their belt so they didn't have to get off the ground.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention too is those 3 in particular. I saw them. It's not because they're bad. When they got hit, they went out every single time. Every single time. Every single time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't see it a single time where it's like, shit, I'm hit. I'm going to stay in. Whatever, like, screw this. They're doing this. Every single time they went out. So very respectable players, which I would say about, you know, everybody that day. So they're really great guys.
By the way, Mike released a video today of game 3 of the day, and one of those guys, the number 2 guy, was with you on the side, was with you there. So he was the one in the pink shirt.
I now that you say that, yeah, that's he was in front of me. Cool.
Yeah. Now
I'll have to go back and just rewatch it just to watch him.
Now Connor and his crew there couldn't punch in. Everybody else, I don't know if you went to I went to the corner a couple of times, Mike. The first time I went to the corner, it's like, this is like above my pay grade. I can't do anything here. I think we were mostly in the middle, and the number 3 spawn in the middle. Did we have control of that most of the game, Mike? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think we had them. I think we had 3 of the flags for most of the game.
I gotta say, it was a little embarrassing the second game. I was playing MagFed for the first 2 games. Big mistake. Never do again in a big game. But I ran out of ammo, air, everything. I couldn't find my wife for the extra ammo. So, but as far as I know, I was about halfway through that game, and we never got pushed back. Like we always advanced at least to that spawn. And I never got eliminated. But I saw that whole craziness going on because everyone was just screaming net, net, net. And then I saw our team on this right side, and then on the, I guess not the left side, but the other side of the net, just constantly shooting at each other. I wasn't going over there, that's for sure. But then by the time I came back, you guys were in that absolutely intense battle at the end, which I have no details for, so I'll let you guys fill in those blanks. But I missed most of that game.
So the thing about Connor and his we're gonna call them the pink crew because their shirts were kind of pink. Were they light purple? Are we gonna kind of indoctrinate them
Yeah.
with C1D? Okay, we're gonna call it light purple.
A little bit.
So they were there. You guys must have held back easily a dozen of their guys just concerned about getting you there. I kept going in the middle saying, guys, can we just push a little bit kind of mid-right and we can maybe push into the palisade? But it was too intense. Let me tell you one thing. The leaves were probably, 80% down? I couldn't imagine shooting in the guts of that field when the leaves are up. Because you look at the trees, you know that the leaves come from the top, but they go down a fair amount. But it was real woods ball, and it was really, really tight. And there was a scramble at the end. We had the mid flag, the third flag. You're supposed to, I started the podcast. You have to get all flags to technically win, but come on, if you got 3 out of 5 when the time goes out, you claim a victory. So late in the game, I'm there with Nevin. Again, good to have Nevin back playing with us. He played with us at Warzone a couple of weeks before this, but he's looking good.
Forced to be reckoned with.
A force to be reckoned with. Just the perfect way to put it. So we're sitting.
Really Rambo.
Yeah. And a lot of guys are in uniforms, right? Or in costumes for Halloween. One guy was dressed like a jester, black and white, like a court jester. And he was very much pun intended. He was no joke. He was lacing the middle so nobody could get to it. Connor mentioned about having the full vision, the whole 180, 140 degrees, whatever you want to call it. Can't quite see 180. We're not squirrels with eyes on the sides of our head. But anyway, it was pretty open, and that was right in the middle. And it's like, look, we got the angles. We're fine. Well, the jester gets knocked out. His buddy backing him out gets knocked out. So Nevin and I are there. And this guy's running up, and then Nevin says 2 words I don't like to hear. He goes, momentum rule? Which at D-Day was, if you're running for the flag and you get hit, as long as you don't break stride, you can get the flag. There's no momentum rule here. However, I think after the first 10, 12 hits directly on the guy, he might give up. But no, he changes the flag. That was just one guy. I'm not calling about guys wiping in that, but this one guy did that. And we know there's like 3 or 4 minutes left. So I go to Nevin, and it's like, man, we need a shield. So Nevin, you know how you might kind of mention Miranda was his mule with his ammunition. I'm sorry, that's the only word I can think of. Because you did say I couldn't find my wife to get my ammo. So that beautiful young lady that is so dedicated to you and you're dedicated to her has become a mule. No. Nevin asked Nick, and I'll keep out, I don't want to put explicit on this podcast, although I swear enough in the videos. Where are the Nick, get Connor. Nick, where the F are you? Where the F is Connor? Get his ass over here. And I've been trying that with Connor for years. It doesn't work for me, but for Nevin, all of a sudden Connor came in and he goes up to the barricade beside it and nobody's going up. And I figure, well, you only live once. I'll run up and get it. I'll ask if a bunch of guys come and run up with me. The last time I did that at Mirabel in 2019, I was the only one I got massacred. So I was getting PTSD. But I take a playbook out of Connor's page. I take off my marker. I put it down, tuck my airline, my little pouch here. probably the only one. And I go, give me cover. There was dozens of markers giving us cover. It was really cool. Nevin ran up actually a few seconds before. He slid in, took out their flag. And Nevin did a peculiar thing that the other team wasn't aware. You can call a hit. So Nevin calls a hit, and he's just kind of lying there watching, and he's enjoying. He's probably going to slash the Achilles tendon of anybody walking up there from the other team at this point. But I ran up, and just as I'm running towards the flag, Connor, I didn't even think of it because he's up there, he goes in front of me. He's getting the flag ready. A third teammate comes in, plants the flag. At this point, I'm hit, and I got my hands up, and I'm starting to fist pump everybody because we got this one, and sure enough, we held out for about 2 minutes. And going into the half, we're feeling a lot better. The teams seem a bit more even than the first game, and we're feeling good. Now, I want to take this break here to show you guys. No, we don't have a sponsor, but I am wearing, and Connor is wearing, this special shirt that Mike and the boys got Connor and I with our names. Beautiful Canada flag. Of course, the C1D. Mine has my number and Dad. Connor's got Son on the back of his. And they were kind enough to give this to us, and I'm wearing it with pride today. Intensity and this absolutely kick-ass logo that I probably would have spent $100 getting of Connor and I all pimped up. And I do appreciate that you made me taller than Connor on it, Mike. I think you helped engineer that one. So we're wearing those with pride today. So that's our advertisement. And I thanked everybody involved at C1D that helped Mike and Miranda put this together. I see Jeff out there too. I know he did. And it really meant a lot to me. I wrote a post about it just to the guys in one of our on our Discord and I think our Facebook group yesterday. I was going to record a video, but I actually got choked up. So that's either really, really shows how much I care or that I have absolutely no life. But it's because I care. It's because I care. So I want to thank you with that.
And thank you, Mike, for making my dad look even older than he does in it with his full-on white hair. I really appreciate it.
Hey.
Because that's how he claims how old he is all the time. So
based on his
he
hair.
basically says he's a grandpa. Well, you'll be a grandpa.
I'll be a grandpa soon. Sorry. From now on, every time I go to the field, I'm going to tell them I'm 10 years older, so they'll tell me I look good. That's the way it is.
Okay.
You can help me, Jeff. Jeff's in the crowd there. Okay. So first half was that. We kind of had up and down. By the way, the temperature when we got there was 0 degrees, so freezing.
Ooh.
And it started to warm up in the first game. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's good for my cameras because I'm not used to taking the cameras out in cold weather. But no, you got the cold on the outside of the case and the heat in the middle. But I fogged up my mask. I'm sorry, but my mask, my grills, it's the only time they've ever fogged up. But it was just for the first game. But at noon, the weather's good. Nick ordered the what looked like the greatest pizza ever, but probably takes 2 weeks off your life. I think everybody said you can't have more than a piece and a half, or you have to sign a waiver or something. It looked really good and greasy. Connor and I supported local business, St. Hubert Chicken, a Quebec institution. No, they do not sponsor us. And they gave out prizes, and Mike did win for the second time in 2 trips to Mirabel. He won them. What kind of marker did you win the first time?
TMC.
A TMC.
So I won the the full kit TMC. Yeah.
And this time
I sold that to Connor's friend Michael.
Oh, that's
and
true.
This time I won an A5, which I believe is a step up. That's just me personally, because they come fully auto now, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And it just so happened that I was playing MagFed for the first half of the day, complaining about it constantly, and I'm like, oh my god, I know that Nick probably had a spare marker. I could have went inside and got a rental, but I was just going to deal with it. But just so happens lunchtime, and then Connor, thankfully, because I don't know French numbers at all, managed to point out that I won, so I ran up and they gave me an A5. So
I
both
tried.
times, I've only been there twice, and both times, I got a marker. So
I tried
definitely
with
paid
Mike.
for my times going.
Mike goes, "What number was it?" And I said, "It's not yours." And I was trying to rip the bracelet off his arm, saying, "We don't need this anymore," but he just wouldn't let me do it, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
give me that back.
So we head into the second half, and we are playing on, if you know Mirabel Paintball, even if you only gone there once, most people know Vietnam. So Vietnam is, you got the little cabins and they're raised. You think of, if you've seen Apocalypse Now, the famous scene with it's a Valkyrie playing when they go in. Is that the Flight of the Valkyries that's playing? Anyway, so that's the classical music portion of the podcast. But it's these raised kind of hut things there. But that's one side. The other
Like
side
Wind
of the
Talkers.
yeah, exactly. That's in Wind Talkers too. It's true. But the other side of the road is a totally different field. So the fields are being used to being played kind of north-south, and we're playing east-west. You look, and there's a pretty good ditch on each side of the road. It's elevated. There's potential there. Yeah, I love Vietnam Field. That's what Jeff says. Yeah, it's pretty wild, but when you're playing within it, paintball napalm in the chat, interesting. Purple napalm, we could invent it. But right away when you're lining up there, as you know, like, the only way you're going to do this is if you do a wild charge across the road, and if that charge fails, you lose. So it was. We started on the Vietnam side the first time. They started on the north side, which I guess actually leads to the castle, if you know. So, Mike, I'm going to let you explain this one, how that first game went as we were running towards the Vietnam map, and for a lot of people, the first time at that field.
Ooh, well, that personally for me was the most intense game. That's why I made the video almost immediately and released it of that game specifically and what me and a few guys did. But in the beginning, I was feeling a little heavy from lunch, not gonna lie. But I managed to stay up. I managed to stay up kind of in the front, and we got up to the road, the barricades there at the road, and as far as I could tell, it was just a stalemate of just constant back and forth. I managed to link up with Connor. He had the shield there, and he was just pointing out targets. But no matter what we did, we couldn't get past that road. I ended up getting taken out. Came back, met up with you about halfway through. I think it was at the second spawn, and you had a bright idea that we should just, everyone's running this way and going around trying to go around the road, and you had the bright idea that we should just cut across. And I turned around and you disappeared, so I don't know if you managed to get across or not, but I walked over. Me, Miranda, and Kill Hit went over and met back up with Connor, and he was in the corner of the ditch in the field, right on the road, kind of where I left him, and just laying out targets, and we're all trying to take him out. And he looks at me and he goes, "Well, if you're agile enough," he goes, "there's a ditch right here. You can, scoot down that." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm like out of breath. I'm full from lunch. I don't know if I can take it." But I seen a few guys. I think Rob and Nevin were there, and then a few other guys that I didn't know. It ended up being the Slutty Nun and the other,
which was a man,
purple
just
guy.
so you know. Yeah, it's a man.
Yeah.
What?
So,
Oh Christ! It's like
Thailand.
I'm just saying for
all over
I'm just saying for context for people that weren't there. So
Slutty Nun.
Mike's not calling a girl slutty.
Oh yes, thanks for saying.
whatever.
Yeah, you see me there. Yeah. I forget that everyone's not there. I'm not.
No.
By the way, that foothold you guys had that you're about to explain, it was actually on the enemy side of the field. We managed to just get a sliver at the corner. We were on the other side of the field, and let's call us. Hey, you got to give credit to us. They did not come on our side at all. So no. Yeah. So you went on this ravine. Your video is excellent. Corner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just, it was so intense, at least for me, I don't know. So we were at that corner. Connor says, you can go in. I thought we were just in the middle, but apparently I knew once we got into that ditch, anywhere to the right of the ditch was out of bounds. So I knew you couldn't go over there. So this is it.
About
And
8
if we're
inches
gonna
of
get
water
there,
too. 8 inches of
yeah, it was
rainwater.
not easy. We were holding on to branches and in the ditch and stuff, but we managed to get through. And I'm not joking when I say we took out like 24 people
Yeah.
in the course of like 10 minutes. It's like 5 of us. Just it was, and they didn't know we were there. It was absolutely ridiculous. So, and these were all the reinforcements that were trying to come around the outside and take out Connor, the Shield, and all the other guys. And so I think we were doing like an awesome thing that was taking off some pressure from them, letting them, I don't know if they were able to move up or not, but that was the plan anyways for us, was to try to alleviate some of that pressure from that corner. But it was just, it was absolutely mad. Just the gunfights, and it was really close combat. At first they didn't know we were there. And then of course they're going back and saying, all right, there's a bunch of guys in the ditch. We got to go get them. Now we're dealing with twice the amount of people pushing us, and we managed to just keep them off the entire time. And I got taken out, and as I was walking back, they called the game over. So I think we did pretty well that game.
Now, if you want to,
super intense for me.
now I'll paint the picture for everybody. If you pretend you're watching a team, this is how they do it in the hockey games. They go, the one team's on the left side and the right side of the screen. You're looking at the screen, so you got the left and the right. That's the road. Connor was set up with all these guys on the right side, just on the other side of the road. So you'd think now on the left side, they only had a few people defending there because they were just sending everybody to the right side because of the foothold we had. And their spawn was on the left side. They did not want to go across there. They were terrified to lose that foothold. And I released one little video, 20-second video of them sitting there, but getting across there was huge. Now, I was to the left of Connor, maybe 20 yards to his left, and there was a little ridge, and we had the barricades in front that you were taking out, Mike, and in front and to your right, Connor. And it's like, why can't we take those out? On the other side of that ridge, we only realized after the game, when we walked up and we looked, we went this little, not a valley, but just a little, it's sunken in there. There are all these barricades that were angled off towards the right. They had a perfect line of sight on the right. Had we actually gone in, Mike, had you guys gone over the top, you would have got wiped out. But instead, you guys were taking them out there. Yeah. Now, I was having a hell of a time when I did go to the middle and the left to see if there's any spots for us. People were wiping. So, yeah, I think it was worse in the fourth and last game. But in the middle, people were wiping. We were trying to knock those barricades on the right where you were, Mike. But at least when you were hitting them, you hit a guy from close range, and the only thing you said is, "Well, that must have hurt." But you know what? That's the only way.
Yeah.
That's the only way some of these guys were actually getting off the field. You know.
I was gonna add, I'm not normally like this. You can watch my videos. I'm normally not the vocal guy who's yelling at people, telling them to get out. But I had to do it because of the theme of the day. Like, I was just telling people, because even that guy who was 5 feet away, well, 7, 8 feet away behind the bunker, his belly was sticking out. I got him.
But
he
you
went
one-tapped
behind
him.
cover.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was nice about it. He went behind cover, and I feel like, because he didn't know where it came from, and I feel like, because he wouldn't have been that close, obviously. I feel like if I wasn't like, "Hey, bro, you're out,"
Yeah.
I feel like he would have been over there
Yeah.
doing that. And if you actually watch the video closely, he was the one who came back in the end. He was the last kill I got before his speedball buddy took me out. So he was coming back to try to get me because I shot him in the belly. He was pissed.
But you had to tell him to get out. You had to tell him to get out. But there was a ref.
That's what I mean. There was multiple people.
There was a ref on the ravine.
People that.
The ref was there, and he was like leaning over, looking. And when Mike said, he was out, and the guys, "Get out." So really,
yeah, the ref was watching our little mini game going on over there, and he was on point from what he could see. He was telling them to get out, get out. I see your hit, get out, get out. And he did 2 paint checks for me. Mm-hmm. He did one on me. I asked him, I ducked down. I said, "Hey, am I hit?" And he did a whole view on me, and he said, "No, you're good. Get back in there."
And that's when you're hanging on for dear life in this incline
to a tree. I'm like, yeah. It was a good time. What a blast.
Now, Connor, you were absolutely a target. You're sitting there. What these guys are defending, and they look at the furthest corner from their spawn. They know enemy action's there. And what do they see? This pale blue shield. And some guy with a white mask, because for some reason he runs a white frickin' mask, peering around, calling it out. I swear, you got hit by at least 1,000 balls. At least 1,000 balls. I mean, a case is 2,000. You got, I mean, yeah. You told me your legs were sore. I'm surprised, like your arms, your forearms weren't sore.
Yeah. And I think my legs might have been the most sore from that, where I was like, I know the part that I didn't go on the part that Mike and the rest of the crew went on. That was like a pretty steep incline. I don't know. It might have been like 45 degrees or something. But I feel like where I was specifically, it was like physically impossible to stand up without sliding down. So I dug myself like a little hole and had my heel, like not my heel, the opposite, my toes, kind of into a root. So I had one foot keeping me up in a spot for like 45 minutes. It felt like, or however long, and I'm just calling people out the entire time. And after for a few minutes, I'd be taking lots of shots. Then they'd stop shooting at me, and then I'd have to call out more guys. So that was the game that really like killed like my legs from being there.
At one point, I was going to go in the ravine, and I went there to look, and Connor being my conscience, because my wife tells him, it's like, no, Dad, don't. And some stranger on our team, you know, the loop you got on the tactical vest, he just grabbed me and he goes, no, man. And he just pulled me back, and it's like a bouncer, and it's like, okay, guys, I guess I won't go there.
I don't know what I called you. I think I called you like, are you stupid? No, you can't do that. Like in the heat of the moment, it's like, no, what are you thinking?
It was actually a lot deeper and stinkier than it looked too, because it looked to only be about like that, but once you put the weight of your foot in,
I was warning people when they're going there, because I was telling them, and then some people, because they don't listen since I was speaking in English, just went right in, and you saw it's like they're like almost to their knees.
Oh yeah, and it's one of these things that if you pull your leg out, you may leave your boot behind. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
Keep going. Sorry.
All right. Well, one thing I wanted to point out is that Mike and I were on the same side, but I was kind of like in a further back spot, right? And I could really see the path that they're coming in through. And honestly, I don't really know the rule at big games when you get hit. Do you go back to spawn walking? Do you come back walking? How does it work? Because when they got hit, they would sprint back to their spawn, then sprint back here, and be back in like 40 seconds.
I never really heard of it.
And so it felt...
I always walk back to try to get my breath.
Yes, they were running. They were
running back and forth, which is fine when the field is big, but since their respawn point was so close, I saw how many guys Mike and them took out, but we got no ground the entire time because they were just coming back so fast.
But to our credit, they couldn't unlodge. I'm saying us. They couldn't unlodge our team. You guys were two cornerstones in there. There was one incident in that game, again, of unsportsmanlike, because a lot of fields, they got the slapstick, right? Like like the big game at Commando where I hit the wrong color. This is pretty simple. It's got the one thing you put your flag. So you put yellow, you take the red out and you put the yellow in, or whatever color you're doing. Well, as we were getting in position, we saw them take a flag that was on their side, and they took our flag, and you're just supposed to put it on the ground beside it, and they threw it down the road. Nice.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, well, 2 times. So the second game we played when we got the flag, right? It was completely like it was in the open.
That's why you ran ahead of me. That's why you ran ahead of me with the shield. Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I got it. Before Nevin even got their flag out, I went up and got our flag and brought it back. They like threw it like 10 feet away from the thing. And it was like behind cover on their side almost. So I had to go past the cover up a little more and get it. Otherwise, it
So I
was
have a hard
completely out of reach.
Yeah, I have a hard time understanding the rules when they explain them at Mirabel specifically. So I kind of got to ask you guys for them, but that should be part of the rules. It's
It
like
should
you can
be.
only
There is no rule. They
pick it up
don't mention
and
it.
and drop it.
Yeah, because
'Cause if
you're
you just chuck
expected
it,
to
I
be
mean, you could just-
civilized.
You know, and I mean, when I used to play baseball, I had a really big problem with like not dropping my bat. I'd always, whenever I'd hit it, I'd be like too excited to run, where it's just I would like whip it back. So I get it. Sometimes, right, you're taking out the flag, you're getting shot at, you throw it back.
No,
Right.
And I don't know if it is a ref thing because the refs were so good. Maybe they should grab the flag and put it at the base. But their team specifically was taking it and like throwing it back far.
Yeah, not dropping it.
In the third game specifically, when I
Doesn't
tried
even
to
surprise me.
switch the flag at the very start, and I got knocked out. And as I'm standing up, because I'm kind of like reaching over the plane, I'm like, where the hell's our flag? So I get up, go around the plane, and there's already a giant thing you have to walk around, and they put it like further down the road. So you have to go around this wall of cover onto their side down the road to get it. It's like nobody is ever going to get that.
Why do you do these things? And by the way, you're going to see, like I said, I want to take positives because we had a great time this day. But I stopped playing and I went and I found a ref and I said, this is what happened. And I think it might have been, I don't know if she's permanent. Sometimes they call in extra referees and helpers when they have a big game. So I don't know if it was her first day or whatever, but she was on the walkie. She explained it and she's holding your finger up. It's in the video. And she's like, we'll take care of it. And it's like, okay, good. But I'm sitting there, somebody say, are you a baby, Andrew? No, I'm not a baby. You know, we're out here to have fun. Yeah, it's a combat sport. I mean, it's not like karate, but you know how they call it a combat sport? It is. We're running around with pretend guns. We're not real soldiers. Bothers me when people think they're soldiers. But the bottom line is, well, don't be a baby, just whatever. No. There's a certain point. It's like, you know what? Like, really? They're going to do that? Why don't you just run up, get their flag, you know, bring it back to base. You know, I'll go eat my lunch early. I have that slice of pizza and, you know, wipe my mouth with it and they can find it in the parking lot. So yeah, that happens.
Well, it's just you see it in professional sports all the time. There's always like the snooty, like, you know,
yeah. That's
basketball players that are throw the basketball over the ref, you know, so he can't get it, or it's just something like that. There's always those type of unsportsmen. It's just a sportsman thing, you know.
Okay, so we're going to talk about.
I know. Funny enough, though, about that. Sorry to interrupt you, Dad.
No, that's cool.
When we came back from me telling you, we actually had the flag somehow.
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy that we got it. Like, I specifically went around the corner and looked, like I said, and it's like, there's no way we get this, but actually somehow we did.
And so, you had a shield to protect.
Love to see how.
Yeah. So we play this third game, and then we switch sides, and we're heading into the last game. And right away, I knew one thing that, you know, I saw a lot of wiping in that one. We had the thing being pitched, but by us just holding that corner for, Connor was mentioned 45 minutes. I bet you it's damn close to that. And so we had 3 flags and they only had 2, or they had 3. It was one team barely won that game, but we had fun. But you know what's going to happen next? It's the last game. Some guys have thrown the rules out the window. The last game is always going to be very, very shooty. What did I kept saying? I said, I'll be lucky to shoot 1,000 balls today. Each game I shot more because I wasn't getting angry about the cheaters, but I knew that I had to be on the ball if I wanted to even things out. And the last game, we changed spawns. And let me tell you one thing. I'll let you explain how it went, but I thought it would be easier for us to go into Vietnam. But when I first went around the corner, which was a long time after you did, Connor, because you ran in with a vanguard of players, is when I saw the raised huts, because, you know, Vietnam huts, and I saw all these windows, and it's like, oh, okay. It's like, this is going to be hard. And Connor, but here's the idea. You want to explain the idea we're going to have? Because again, similar to the first map, is they had a screened area that you had to run kind of like a tunnel. Think of it like a tunnel, or what's that when you have a lane that's blocked off? A rails, like you're playing a video game on rails. You have to run down this path. Then the field opens up, and on the right, that's where Vietnam is, and you can run there. So, Connor, I want you to explain what happened at the start of that last game, and Mike, where you were when this happened, because I was just in the back mopping shit up.
Yeah. So the map, essentially an upside down U, where the break in the letter is the road, and like my dad said at first, it's you have to run straight at first. You can't go across the road right away because of the out of bounds. But yeah, our team had a plan. Funny enough, moments before speaking to Trent and Nick, mentioned like how like, oh, if I'm general at this event or something, I'm sending half my team to just run across the road right away and just die. And the other half runs and gets 3 flags and is pushing their 4th right away as that other half distracts the team. And believe it or not, that's what we tried to do.
They actually got in the build. They got in some of the Vietnam.
Well, yeah, Dad. Let me speak.
Okay.
I'm saying a story. I'm sorry, but our ref, General, just like Anakin, he told us like, "Hey guys, like you guys want to run across if you want to win, because you're gonna have the sun in your eyes. It's gonna really suck heading for 3. Like you have to get a good hold." And so I'm pretty sure half our team got the memo, then the other half didn't. Because me and a few of those speedballers I was speaking about before, we ran for, I think it might have been like close to a 2-minute run or something. It felt like a while. We're already at their 2nd flag right away as their main force gets there. And we hop into a building, at least 50 or 60 guys they killed. And so I'm like...
It's clear on the video. You can see the window... And players,
they're killing. It's 2 speedball guys killing them. Like they're all running in. Like they're jogging in. It's not the main force, but it's the joggers. Some of their sprinters though we caught up with at the start, and after they start to shoot us in our back. But anyways, we're on their side right away
in the building,
and they don't even know we're there. Like half the guys that are getting shot. Like I'm standing back in the window calling them out, like saying, hey, they're on the left, they're on the right, they're on under the bridge, they're in the window, blah, blah, blah. So they're taking them out. And half their guys are staying in. And they're getting lit up by the speedballer, right? They're getting hit. And so maybe they think like, oh, I'm getting team killed. I'm in my spawn, basically. There's no way I'm getting killed. Maybe I'm getting long balled. I'm going to stay in. But half their guys weren't going out, which is when I was really like, yeah, this is crazy. But anyways, it was really cool to be in that building once they finally realized, like holy cow, those are enemies. And when they started shooting at us, it's like, you heard the shots on the building. My shield was getting hit. Some of their really experienced players ran up onto our building that we were in, and you could see them through the slits in the planks. Like you saw like that it'd become dark all of a sudden when people would run by. So it was something out of like... I think it's Black Hawk Down, right? Before when they're stuck in the building.
Oh, when the chopper goes down at first. Yeah, and they're watching.
Exactly, and they're surrounding the building. It literally felt like that. It was crazy. But yeah, eventually I got hit in my mask, and I had to go out. And I was like, this is like one of the angriest times I've ever been at paintball. And I look back. And the other half of our team did not run up to the 3rd flag. I felt like.
Yeah, because you came back and found me.
I'm like, where did you guys go? What the hell?
Yeah.
In my defense, I was going back to the corner that we breached in the first game because I knew I wasn't fast enough to run with you guys.
Well,
that was legitimate for me to go there. And by the way, they only got a few guys there towards the end of the game because you held that area valiantly till the end there, Connor, after. You kind of did a reverse, Connor. You were trying to keep people from where you and Mike were the first half. But there was so much wiping in that corner. I had to throw a smoke on Connor because he was like, he had the shield and they're hitting him. And it's like, I'm not leaving him hanging. So I threw the smoke on him and you kind of threw it beside you. and guys were just running towards us. One guy was running at me like bonsai charge, and I probably popped him 5 or 6 times in the chest. And I realized that's not how I play, but he wouldn't stop. And so Connor and I pulled out because we knew there was 7 minutes left or whatever it was. And yeah, I don't even know who won that last game. I think it was probably the biggest stalemate of the day, to a certain degree. But no, you guys.
I want to say that they unfairly in the last like 2 minutes pushed in and took that third flag or whatever, got into our side. But that was only in the last 2 minutes. It was actually terrifying because they were doing those war chants and they were doing 20-person rushes with war chants, which was actually kind of cool.
Fun fact: if you don't call your hits, fault. You don't need 20.
Yeah. Well, exactly. It was kind of my fault. I had no idea the strategy of that. We were kind of late coming in to the spawn of that, and as soon as we got there, I think we aired up, and it was start of the game. I went with you at first, Andrew. I went to the right side. I tried to assess.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to cut as far, when you come, you go straight through the tunnel, like you said, and I wanted to go as far right at the boundary and try to cut across the road. And I realized that was not going to happen. Yeah. But now that Connor explains what was going on across the road, makes a lot more sense because I pushed up to the center. So if you're looking at the ditch on the left, which is out of bounds, and then the right, and then straight ahead of you is the Vietnam, I was in the middle. I was trying to assess what was going on. I realized that they hadn't made it past the buildings yet, but I was wondering why there was no targets on the left side. But that explains it because you guys were in those buildings kind of holding them back. But we sat there for a little bit. I got taken out. Didn't have to go back too far because the second flag was right there. Really quick respawn. There was that airplane that was over kind of on the left side. You guys this must have been when you guys had gotten taken out because they were kind of all layered in those buildings. Like you said, it was absolutely terrifying trying to fight those guys in those buildings. Yeah. But we managed to, they never came out of the buildings. We managed to, they never made it as far as
they stayed in there for a very long time. Yeah.
And then in the last 2 minutes, I got nailed in the head, so I wasn't even in the game, but I got nailed in the head. Last 2 minutes, I started walking back, and I heard all these war cries.
Yeah,
and these guys were just running, getting hit, groups of 20, just getting nailed. There was no way, and none of them were turning around. And then they would all bunker down and speed balls. Mm-hmm. It was just a mess. So I just turned around, ducked my head, and I was like, all right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, we were more towards the left side at the last 2 minutes. And we had about 3 or 4 guys, Connor, that were on the incline by the road, the ravine, whatever you want to call it. And they were just waiting for them to come over. And we just kind of held our ground. But in the last few minutes, I had 2 firefights with guys in the window of one of the Vietnam buildings. The one guy, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 shots. Finally, I hit him in the face. I see his hand go up. And it's oh, he called his shot. Well, about 10 seconds
later. Was that fourth game quicker?
I think it seemed quicker. By the way, the guy who called his shot at first was firing at me 5 seconds later. But then a buddy of his, or a teammate of his in the same building, but another window, I hit him. He actually walked out, and I felt good. That was my last thing of the game. No, we kind of held up at the end there. Yeah, the last game we did a little bit of standing at one point because I started to get a little fatigued in the last game. Remember, Connor, we're sitting in the back talking with Brent. Was that his name?
Trent.
Yeah, Trent. New paintball friend of ours. We were talking with him and the ref for a few minutes while things were happening. But the third game seemed long. But then again, we're just holding to that little corner of the field, so of course it seemed long.
Yeah, I guess that we were in the shit.
So, an hour and 10 minutes already. My gosh. Okay, let's do our parting shots here. Mike, how would you like to wrap up your thoughts of 6EF and the again really outstanding event that Mirabel hosted? the things we bitched about were something that is out of their control, and frankly, a lot of players have to deal with. Remember, when you're at a big game, anybody and everybody comes out, so that happens. But overall, Mike, what are your parting thoughts about it?
It was awesome. I had went to another event there earlier that year. It was a little bigger, but they do an awesome job. The staff, the refs, everything there is just so great. The fields are phenomenal. One thing I'm really bummed out about, and I'm not trying to cheers bum, because we had a great time. I would do it all over again tomorrow if I could. But I really wish we could have played on the other side of the field with all the airplanes and ice cream trucks and
D-Day.
just buses and just, yeah, I really enjoyed that on the other event. But overall, it was an awesome day. To top it off, I got the A5. We had the crew this time, because last time we had a pretty small crew. There was 4 or 5 of us. I think we had 10, 12, 14. I don't even know. We had
14.
Good crew, so that always is a bonus. So 9 out of 10 for my day, and the only thing that ruined it was the constant wiping.
Mr. Connor, Mr. Shield, you can do the last thought if you want, because you earned that from your tour duty.
No.
Okay.
I mean, Mike summed it up pretty well. It's really cool to play there. I really wished we played, in the sun, especially in the second half, rather than playing on the U. Nothing against it, but you just know that with that road that it's like, yeah, people aren't going to cross this late into the day, right? People are going to be tired, so otherwise, yeah, the refs were awesome, especially our semi-general Anakin ref. I really wish that, even though it's nowhere near it's still a big event, right? But it's not like a big, Commando D-Day or their D-Day. But I really wish there was some sort of general on each side, because it really did feel chaotic, and that for all 4, and I guess maybe even the 5th game that I don't think any of us played in, where it really felt like there was no direction from the team. Like, obviously, when you play a big game, right, it's still very messy, and not everybody plays coordinated, but it felt like our team was kind of like, you're just putting a lot of people into a few maps, and you're letting them play, which is fun, right? If you kind of just want to, do your own thing, and you're that type of player. I like to have like some sort of plan or idea, and so it felt a little messy, but not because of their fault. Nothing to do with Mirabel. But I wish there was some sort of like leadership on each side.
It's a good point, actually. That's a good point. Very good point.
Like, I guess the 4th game really demonstrated that, where like some of our guys was like, okay, this is like the last game, we're gonna do something awesome, and only like 10 people did it, even though he spoke in front of the entire crowd. Yeah. Only a few people did it, and the first 3 games, any sort of strategy was non-existent.
Just get there.
Yeah, just get there, kill people, which is fine for, a normal day of paintball. That's what we do every single time when we go out to Warzone. But, when it's a big event like this that you circle on your calendar and you prepare for it and you whatever, I kind of wish that there is that aspect, because that's what I always love about playing a Commando is you have, your Tonka that's, he goes above and beyond with how he's on the field, like, like, get in there, like, not in a mean way, but he's like inspiring. And so not having that here, I really felt that aspect was missed for sure.
Yeah, I think too is when we met some people. You talked about the speedballers. You came across Connor that you had. Mike ended up, like I said, on the ravine with one of them, and that met some great people there. But when the other team's wiping and doing all those things, it gets you mad. You're less inclined to work with people, and you'll just sit there going, "Oh, I'm going to light up the next guy I see," and it just doesn't. Look, there was a couple hundred people there, give or take, a couple dozen either way. And again, nothing wrong. It's nothing Mirabel can deal with because there's so many people to follow around. But guys that come and do that with the fields, you don't even have to say it. It's the most selfish thing you can do. If you don't have this and it's a tighter event, you're not going to have 200 people at that event next year. You're going to have 300, 350. They're going to look and say, when's their big game? And they're going to get more people for that. So I'm going to kind of end this the way I started it. Had this been 7 years ago, Connor, when me and you first took this dive into full-time paintball as a hobby, we would have driven home there, and we would have had an incredibly sour taste in our mouth and maybe not gone to the field, even though it wasn't the field's fault. You got to give the field a chance. You got to go when you're out there and you got to point these guys out. And some of them won't care because they just won't care. But honestly, if you go and you point to a ref, you don't do that. The little kid that's playing there with his buddies knows that you're protecting him, knows it's a fair sport, and will do the same thing. Hey, ref, I saw this. It's just not the right thing to do. I feel so stupid saying this, but it's just the way it is. And because of our community, I called it the family, the C1D family. And look, a lot of our guys play with CMDQ guys. I mean, those guys are hardcore milsim. When I go out to play the way they normally play, I like cower because it's not my style and I get scared. But you know what? They will not do stuff like that. And we all played together on this thing, and we sucked it up and we dealt with it. We told the refs everything we could. And it kind of made little things like holding that corner of the field in game 3 that much better, as opposed to, man, nobody could move. So, I mean, it makes you appreciate what you have more. And Jeff wrote, we have to do a Mirabel event next year. I think we will do a Mirabel event. I think we will do the Tipman Challenge because it is a full field. You get to play everywhere. Frankly, getting up when it's 0 degrees is not for me. So as much as I liked Rush, maybe we will play a summer event. I'm going to sign off here, guys, by just saying one more time to Hugo and every single person at Mirabel Paintball, from the ones that were taking the tickets, from the way they checked everything off, the very animated guy who was giving out the awards, our General Anakin, what I said, like a couple of these girls that were in the back reffing that, they didn't look like paintball people, but tell you what, they were paintball people because they attended to your needs. And look, you can have the world's greatest field. If you haven't got a great staff, it's worthless. And that's why Mirabel Paintball Connor knows this. I call it a world-class facility. It is a world-class facility. And if you have any opportunity to go there, go there. If you're in a situation where maybe you're from out of town or you want to do the 4-hour drive from upstate New York or New Hampshire or something, look us up on Facebook. Ask us to come out and help you out. I know we love Warzone. It's our home field in that. But you look, Mirabel's a great facility, and we'd be glad to go out there and play with you guys. And we just want to populate. So these guys, remember I said it's a minority of the players that wipe, and they had a big chunk of them doing it. Let's get more people there to drown them out. And when your teammate does that, you say, no, you don't do that. Get off the field, because there's nothing wrong with that.
Fuck out of here.
Get the hell out of here. I tell you what, Nevin will get Nick to get them out of there, because that's what Nevin and Nick do.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank Mike. I want to thank Connor for being here. Again, Mike, for spearheading these wonderful, incredibly thoughtful gifts, which really mean a lot to Connor and I. Chris and Jeff.
I'm glad you guys love it.
We love it. I literally was going to cry on the field. It's like, no, I can only cry after the game. Why did you give this to me before the game?
Didn't cry after the game in the car. He did not cry in the car, just so you know. Held in his tears until he got into the bathtub and he cried.
Lit some candles.
Yeah.
Do I not light a candle when I'm in the bath, Connor? Put a little...
Well, for mom, yeah.
Hey Google, play sexy music. Oh shit! Wait a minute, I got to Google right here beside me.
Oh my god.
Thanks for Jeff and Chris for listening live. Oh no, they're playing something from Spotify. Before I get a copyright strike, hey Google, stop listening. Hey Google, stop listening. I'm Andrew. Thanks for listening. Till next time, don't mess with Google. Don't wipe. Don't be a dick. You'll figure it out. Have fun, because at the end of the day, yeah, I don't even know what the hell song this is. It's just a game.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to like us, rate us, and tell everybody about us. Thanks for listening.